Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Veil, a podcast on psychic protection, spiritual hygiene, and navigating the ebbs and flows of the healing journey as you learn to navigate, understand, and master both your sovereign and shadow selves. My name is Lauren on Earth, your host. And today we are diving into part 2 of talking about dark forces, a continuation of last week's episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1, I highly suggest doing so before you listen to part 2. But the gist is that there are many groups of interdimensional beings who have lost their conscious connection to source, who at one point in time have intentionally chosen to separate. And I shared a message I received from Source in the last episode, just helping me to understand why they are the way they are and how I'm supposed to accept them. But I want to share another that came through more recently, and actually my latest ayahuasca retreat back in November, where I was clearing this dark teacher. And after the hardest, most messed up night of my life, the next morning, I just could not understand how God could love someone like that. And I know that sounds harsh, but if anyone experienced what I did, not only that night, but tracing it back, I'm sure you would ask a question similar to that of like, just how can someone be this evil? How is this possible? And there were a lot of messages to get me kind of back on track and release this anger that I had been feeling. But one in particular, and I was actually shown that the beginning of the energy of this antichrist, right? The separation consciousness was a seed of doubt, one small seed of doubt within source consciousness to question itself. That was ultimately the beginning of the creation of this beast that we'll call the Antichrist, which there are a lot of names for it. And the shadow self, the dark feminine, the dark masculine, the darkness that is beautiful, the void, that's not what I'm talking about here. And there is a difference between that darkness, that is the duality, that is who we are, and evil. Because the definition of evil is anyone who uses manipulation to sway another to do something that is out of alignment to their highest good, or that is harmful to them or to others. And of course, there are many layers and levels to it. Not all are created equal, but I'm going to talk about the shadow, the void, this other kind of darkness that I think a lot of people kind of group into one next time. Today, the focus is more the darkness that is distorted, that is inflicting harm, that is intended to cause chaos, right? Because as we know, these beings are disconnected from this life force energy that we all know we need to sustain us. So they're utilizing other beings, us humans included, as their fuel source. They're parasites. And they're able to do this through manipulation of our consciousness. So, like I said in episode 1, they are intelligent, but they're not empathetic or compassionate. And they're intelligent, but not that intelligent, because they really exist in the fourth, maybe fifth dimension. So they're more intelligent than someone's consciousness who solely operates in the third dimension or lower. but not as intelligent as someone in the fifth or above. And what they have done was disconnect us from that higher intelligence. So we're not able to see that. So today we're going to get into the how, and I will explain some of their techniques and methods that have allowed them to create these, what are now socially acceptable belief systems that when you really start to critical think and question it, make absolutely no sense. For example, how we go to war and kill for peace. They also use programming to shift our DNA so that we need to feel pain in order to activate our pleasure centers, which then lead many to kind of fall into this addiction or these harmful behaviors. They've created panic around the medical agenda so that the fear, without even thinking, the fear just controls them into prescribing as many pharmaceuticals, vaccines as possible. Meanwhile, this unnatural and inorganic world they've created is really what's causing the sickness, because we are organic and natural beings trying to live against accordance with nature, and it's just not working. But they've convinced us that we need to take a lab-made pill to resolve symptoms rather than go the natural route. So through mind control, we have slowly lost our sense of control over our own thinking, our behaviors, our emotions, and our decision making, just deeming some of these things that happen on this planet as normal, like the homelessness, the theft, the murder. Like, people are hurting each other all day long, and it's a dystopia. And I didn't really start to understand that until I began connecting to the Arcturians, to the Pleiadians, to these other civilizations in our galaxy, where I'm like, they don't live like that. And that's okay. They don't live like that. And I'm realizing that this is actually not the norm. So they designed this system to damage the nervous system, to disconnect from the energy body and the spirit, so we can't see down from what is really happening, make us all believe this is normal. And when this happens, the nervous system and the brain, which are two of the main targets, are more able now to receive these thought transmissions generated by them, essentially implanting their own thoughts, behaviors, memories as our own. And we get confused. We can't separate the difference. This is AI. They send out these electromagnetic pulses of information, especially through mass media, through Hollywood, that keeps people in these negative emotions and low frequencies, the fighting, the drama, the war, the conflict, the negative news that people are just addicted to watching. And a lot of what I describe above is the mind control, where they open and program the neural pathways to shift beliefs, truths, thoughts, ideas, emotions to align to their benefit. They want us to think the way they want us to think. Makes it easier to control us. And now they've created the reality that they want. So this happens on a massive scale, like, TV drama and mass media. Another example are chemtrails, because chemtrails they don't only contain chemicals and pollutants that dull our senses and make us sick and poison the body, our food, our water, the land, but they also contain nanotechnology, which, the way it's been explained to me, it's just another form of mind control. It's like AI that now is in our system, and it can be used to track us. It's also used to disrupt and distort the flow of chi and the natural ability of our body to heal itself. At Coachella last year, which is a whole episode within itself because it was the first time that I was sent on this massive grid work mission. But in the middle of a set, I was being shown how our thoughts are supposed to be these messages from the higher self to help our human self perceive our reality. The problem is that there have been viruses that have infiltrated the mind to make us doubt, to confuse, and to not listen or even to be able to receive the messages. But essentially, when we are in our organic state and the human body is functioning as it was designed to by the founder races, not by the Anunnaki, by the founder races, pre-Anunnaki involvement, our thoughts are direct higher self messages helping us to make sense of and navigate our reality. And it made sense to me. Like, this is our direct communication with higher aspects of our consciousness to help us understand and perceive and make sense of our reality. But there has been infection and infiltration that make it so our thoughts can keep us in loops and cycles and confused. Because remember, everything comes back to code. So if anyone has ever seen the quantum, it's all code. It all comes back to code. And that's what creates the reality, creates the physical reality. So over the summer, I learned after escaping this group that one of the members is a very skilled coder. This person creates these viruses, but it's all code, and infects others with them. And they do this to all the people in their community. They do it through music as well, but it's not just that. So this person creates code that infects, and it's honestly kind of disgusting what I found, what I've pulled out of me, what I see in others. Viruses that infect the mind, the body, the cells, the organs, and even viruses that like siphon your beauty and life force energy to them. It's maybe a whole other topic, but really what I'm trying to get at is that they're just like in a computer, right? Where the computer gets a virus, that same thing has happened to our mind. So the mind control can look like implants, machinery, these structures that I talked about last week, these massive structures in our systems that connect to multiple chakra points that then connect to the underworld or to reptilian collectives, for example. And I don't really know what to call them, so I just call them structures because that's how I see them. It's kind of like an architectural blueprint of someone who's about to design a house, but in the body. And it can affect all of us differently. So if you have trouble recalling information or even recording it, right? Like remembering information, poor memory, brain fog, forgetfulness. Yeah, they can be caused by parasites feeding on you, but remember that these dark forces are parasites. Also, manipulation that has caused you to adapt beliefs that do alter the brain chemistry, blocking your ability to critical think, blocking your pineal gland. I didn't understand because I had all of the above. I had a very severe mental illness, and I thought it was me for so long until I started to get deeper into this and like, no, this is them. And it's a form of mind control and a form of attack. We should be able to remember to have clarity, to think critically, to be able to assess a situation and know what is safe and what is not. All of this confusion, this fear, this doubt, this forgetfulness, that's all damage. That's all infiltration of this distorted energy, that it's making it hard for our system to function as it's supposed to. So I used to not be able to critical think to save my life back in school. Like anytime a question like that would show up on a test, I was just like it was bad. And I used to think, I'm stupid. Like I'm not smart. But at the same time, I was to a degree. I always used to say like my brain is broken, and to myself, like something is wrong with my brain is broken. And after removing all of this gunk, all of a sudden I have like the best critical thinking skills that saved me over the summer, because I had to critical think and I had to look at things from every possible angle to make sure that I was safe in this insane attack that I was experiencing, asking the questions that needed to be asked. I mean, there was not one timeline, not one thing that did not go unnoticed. So maybe it's not a direct attack on you necessarily, like it was for me, but it's on the collective, especially over time, where simultaneously we're also getting stuck in these karmic loops that they have created. Because, yes, Earth School, we need these challenges, right? So it is serving, but it's serving until it's not, because how much is it really serving to keep playing out these same issues over and over and over again in every lifetime, where you're so clouded that you're unable to break free, partly because of mind control, negative ego. But again, they are responsible for what's going on with the negative ego. And again, like it's all serving until it's not. So how many lifetimes do you want to live where you're not really progressing forward in the resolution of these karmas? And I just want to touch on the negative ego, because there are layers to the ego, but the negative ego is exploited by mind control to continue to serve the self, which leads to narcissistic behavior, where they also distort the the ego defense mechanisms, meaning keeping people in looping patterns of not being able to see how they play a role in another suffering or even their own suffering, or how their actions are not just or socially acceptable. It like blocks them from being able to acknowledge that. So pay attention to who in your life exhibits this behavior maybe so strongly, and ask these questions like, do they have reptilian DNA? Are they hijacked? Is it this unconscious programming that they're not even aware of, but at their core, like there is light there is purity there. This stuff runs so very deep, but this programming, the control, the narcissism, the negativity, for the majority of humans, this is not who we are at our core. We would not have necessarily, I mean, okay, we did choose this path, sure, but we didn't create this way of being. Like these are adapted behaviors that are not ours innately. And I've been there too, where I've been in this programming and I was not myself, and I was a very unkind version of myself, but it wasn't me. It was something that my soul chose to allow in to experience what that was like. And there comes a time where it's not serving anymore. It's not benefiting you anymore. you've played in that game, you've learned what you needed to. And I see a lot of people trying to move through breaking these cycles, but they're not able to do so, at least in the timeline that they want, because they're not looking at all of this. And that's where I come in. That's what we're doing in these sessions, where it's like, sure, you can continue on your path. You will absolutely get there. You don't need me. But when we go directly to the source of this programming, and I can identify this programming in the blueprint, and we recode it, and you move through your karmic stuff, it's not bypassing. It's not, oh, you're not going to have to deal with the repercussions or, what the aftermath of all of this, but it's definitely absolutely more efficient to go right to the source. So I just want to maybe take a moment to share a few things that I've cleared off me, because really there have been hundreds, if not more, implants, machines, structures, inserts, all forms you can possibly think, and some that probably will blow your mind maybe, because it did for me, where I'm like, how? One of them was a reptilian arm on my left arm, and I saw this in an ayahuasca ceremony last March. And actually, I was when you do a couple ceremonies in a row, especially with the Kofan tribe, where that medicine just gets so deep into the physical. That morning where this thing cleared from my arm, I was really resisting letting the medicine take me deep, because I was so depleted from the last 3 ceremonies. And I was just asking, like, please be gentle. And she goes, do you trust me? And I'm like, yes. So right before I plunged, I was seeing this reptilian arm that looked very mechanical, and it was being removed from my left side. And I'm like, okay, I can handle this. This is fine. Yeah, this is no problem. And what I was being shown was, it was one massive distortion to my feminine, my ability to connect to the inner goddess, to my inner feminine, and also my ability to receive my connection to my feminine. It was a massive block. Then a little bit later down the line, a reptilian tail that was used to control and block Kundalini energies. I have not had my Kundalini awakening yet. I mean, what was there in my lower chakras, it makes complete sense why that hasn't happened yet. But a lot of people do have this reptilian tail that blocks the Kundalini from being able to move up, and also siphons the energy of the root chakra. So it makes it very difficult to ground. If you're someone who struggles to ground, okay, maybe, yeah, you have a lot of air in your chart. Okay, yeah, you're a starseed, or you don't really like being in the physical body. Sure, that's part of it. But there probably is also a lot of infiltration into the root that makes it very difficult to do so. It's not you. It's not, oh, why aren't my grounding practices working? It's because you're going up against this massive structure and probably entities in the root chakra that are just not allowing you to really ground and root down, not only into your physical body, but into the earth. And also, your root chakra is your safety, your security. So if you're struggling with that, and you've done the practices, you've worked through some of the beliefs around being in the physical body and being here, maybe it's time to take a deeper look into what else is there, what else is going on in the root. Recently, another one, a reptilian head, and I'm not even kidding. It was a proper massive reptilian head that was blocking my sight, my third eye. My sight's pretty good, but I know it could be better. And I know, we all know there's been an attack on the site for me. So I actually was removing this yellow and black coiled serpent from my womb. And then I started to realize, actually started to see vision, like the vision of the serpent was crystal clear. And I'm like, oh, I'm seeing this crystal clear. My visions aren't always crystal clear. This must be connected to my third eye, which it was. So whatever distorted thing they put in me was not just solely womb, but it was also womb and third eye. And as soon as the serpent cleared and all of the venom, like the poison that it was secreting that I cleared out of the womb, I then saw the reptilian head, but I wasn't able to see that until the serpent left. So yeah, it gets weird. It gets tricky, but nothing that we can't handle. So other parts of my brain being just complete dead zones, like I said a couple minutes ago, where I always felt like my brain was broken and something was wrong. And there were parts of my brain that were just dead zones, like completely turned off, like nothing was able to communicate. And it is actually the best feeling ever when parts of your brain come back online, or any parts of your body come back online. It is like, it's vitality like you've never experienced, or I don't want to speak for anyone, but for me, I've never experienced before. Another thing that I found is that they program false memories or even false or distorted future timelines into the mind and the consciousness, with the intention to not only manipulate your timelines, but your emotions and your energy. So sometimes, yeah, they're placed in the light body, but the intention is, you get a vision of a future timeline and you're obviously thinking, oh, this is the path I'm meant to go down. But no, it was them trying to throw you off. And they also use the same method to manipulate historical timelines. But yeah, it alters your perception of reality. And when you're sick and mentally unstable, which two things that I was, you're more vulnerable to these manipulation methods. And that's why they're poisoning our food, water, our land. And that's why they're doing everything to get us into this vulnerable state where it's easier to infiltrate. So let's talk about implants. Implants are invaders. Like I said in the last episode, they're not always just these small implants that you remove. Sometimes, yes, but they're more complex and it's very layered, right? Think about all of the lifetimes where you've been unconscious and how many forms of AI have been sent into the heart, into the womb, into the root over a long period of time. There's a lot there for a lot of us. I mean, I definitely see some people where I can tell that they don't have a lot of this. Others, it runs a lot deeper. I feel like I had it pretty deep, but I was even just talking to a friend last night and like, no, she didn't have the distortion in her in this lifetime, at least to the level that I did. Possibly cleared it in a past life. But again, we're all at different points. It's not affecting us all in the same way. And you might be listening and thinking, I don't feel so much like I have a lot of AI, but I do feel that there are other energies, or maybe underworld energies, or you are feeling like this, could be you to a degree. It's different for all of us, but this is a collective attack. So in some way, shape, or form, it's kind of part of us in a way. So implants are these inorganic energies. It's a fourth and higher dimensional technology. So our 3D brains are going to have a hard time understanding it. But again, you know, think about like a chip, and that chip is coded just like a computer to carry out all these functions that's put into us to carry out functions. So it's causing disruption and disharmony in the body. Your soul can feel that, or at least mine did, even though maybe you're not thinking, oh, it's an implant. But if you're really listening, you might feel something's off. Something's off. I just can't put my finger on it. Some implants are used to track your location, locate your coordinates of your human, other astral bodies as well, so they know where you are and how to find you. Some implants are siphoning energy. Some are programming you. Some are taking information. There are so many different kinds with many different functions, but overall, the intention, right, is to manipulate and control. And I don't recommend just jumping in and trying to clear this yourself without having built a proper foundation, not only in terms of your protection and shielding, but also your level of skill set. Because I like to think of that. Maybe you guys have seen the meme, right, of like the iceberg, where sometimes we only see the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much underneath that we're not seeing. So you really want to make sure that you have protection and you have a very strong relationship with your guides and your higher self and your intuition and your body to help you navigate through what's beneath the surface. How much of a hold does this dark energy have on you? How much light can you connect to and bring into your vessel? Because the way that we alchemize, the way that we clear this is through that light. And if you're really blocked from being able to receive that light, it's going to be very difficult to clear. And, does the dark overpower the light right now? For me, it was absolutely yes. Back when I first started this, I really needed support and I didn't have the strength and the connection to my gifts to be able to do this. And there were many years of foundation that I needed to build before I was ready, which included my connection to the Akashic records and, inner child healing, teenage healing, ancestral healing, trauma from this lifetime before I was ready to tackle the dark forces in this way. So it wasn't like I started here by any means. I had a lot of trauma that needed to move first. I think I said this in one of the first episodes. I meditated hours a day, just connecting to the light. I would play frequencies and just lay there and do my best to connect to the light as much as possible so that I had that life force energy in me, that strong connection where it's not outside of me anymore, it's within me to be able to take this stuff on. So really, that's where I would recommend starting, because there are blind spots and there's also life force energy being siphoned to where at times the dark will temporarily overpower. So obviously, I'm here to support. And just, yeah, sometimes it is best to work with someone, again, temporarily. Like it's not, yeah, you are your own healer. The question to ask is, will your attempt to clear lead to more attacks or more attempted harm, right? You have to critical think. You have to do this in the way that your higher self is guiding you to, because there is a plan for all of this. And that's also where I come in, of what is that plan? What does that look like? And I help you to navigate through it, to help you make sense of it, but also doing a lot of clearing of those blind spots so you can once that moves, now you're reconnected back to a lot of your gifts, your abilities, your power, and you get stronger, stronger, stronger. Do you need support? Is it best to work with someone at least temporarily until you are grounded enough and have cleared enough to now have more power and life force energy to move this stuff on your own? They know you're figuring it out and trying to clear it. There have been eyes on you for a while. So you do need to be a few steps ahead and to have developed those foundational skills. You can't bypass this. It's a big reason why people get caught in spiritual psychosis too. So you have to be smart to know what you're looking for to a degree, to understand them enough to play the game. Don't go in blind. And like I said, I'm here to help. This is my work. This is what I do. And what we do in session is get into the blind spots where I'm able to move a lot of energy in a short amount of time, the energy that might be hard for you to move on your own. The gifts are suppressed. You do have the ability, but there's a block, and sometimes you just need that support. And I know that I would not be where I am today, as liberated as I am today, without all of the mentors, the sessions, the plant medicine, the travel as well. It's not always the healer, but being sent to Shasta, to Glastonbury, to Tulum, to these really powerful vortexes that are helping me move energy in ways that I wouldn't have been able to do in my apartment in the city of Denver. So yeah, again, we'll do an episode on money and the journey with that. But I know for a fact that if I did not ask for the support, and I got a lot of it, I would still be in the trenches, still navigating my way through it. And I would get there eventually, I'm sure. But it was just perpetuating my own suffering when I was just at the point where it's like, ask for help. I'm done suffering. I don't need to suffer anymore. And it's okay to receive. So just briefly wanted to share a few examples of what I've been working through in session with clients, even just over the past few days, specific to AI from higher intelligent service to self beings. We'll save the underworld stuff for another day. So one example, deep religious programming from false teachings that were coded into the blueprint that were keeping the client stuck in this loop programming, where she's still operating based on these false teachings that, we trace back to the reptilians, to the Roman Empire, who distorted Christ teachings, stuff like that. The scarcity lack mindset, I trace back to a lot of this as well. Another was the dissolution of an AI structure that was covering the entire body, that was allowing for my client to just be continuously attacked, because you have to think they're able to infiltrate because their energy is within. It's not always just beliefs and traumas, etc., that they're connected to. And a client, I think this was maybe Friday, she was under attack by dark forces. I felt the Antichrist energy, but it was mainly reptilians that were in her field. And I saw dozens of spaceships that were orbiting outside of her field, just blocking her from being able to connect to source consciousness, and had infiltrated. And with a target on her mental plane, there was a lot of AI. So just a couple of examples of different ways that this can show up. Of course, I'm constantly removing the smaller implants. That's part of it, but we go much deeper. And yeah, it's a really beautiful liberating release when that happens. So in session, we're not only clearing or removing these codes, the artificial intelligence, the machines, but also getting to the roots of why and how they were able to enter into our system. Because, yeah, I can clear it and send you on your way, but it's likely to come back if we're not paying attention to how and starting to follow that path. And, Reiki and that type of energy healing is great, but it doesn't go deep enough. It's more surface, it's more recalibration. And the way that I'm shown the difference is that Reiki and Reiki types of energy healing is like an ice cream scoop that just kind of scratches the surface or the top of the ice cream container. It's helpful for energetic maintenance, but it's not going to get us to the root of the issue. So I had this client once who was seeing a practitioner for like 5 years weekly. And it's not the practitioner's fault, but it's not serving the client, because if you're not seeing results, and I mean impactful results, maybe it's time to seek out a different practitioner. It just means that they can't help you to the degree you need. So Reiki might be able to clear some small AI implants, but it's not going to go deep enough to dissolve what needs to be dissolved for you to break free of these patterns and loops and cycles and traumas and all of the above. So my niche, my specialty, talent, whatever you want to call it, is the depth. And we go to the bottom of the ice cream bin. And it's the reason my site has been under attack, because they know I can see and they know what I'm going to see. There have been thousands of veils that have lifted, that have allowed me to see more and more and more, not only in myself, but in others, because there's no separation. So if I was able to get to the root of my own stuff, which was so insanely deep, I can do the same for others and I can guide them with confidence. So I think maybe we'll end here for today. Gives you a good idea. If you have any questions, again, let's talk about it in the Beyond the Veil group chat. If you're not already in that, the link will be in the show notes to join the community. There are often conversations, questions that get answered, just a space for us all to connect and, not feel so alone. I don't know what the next topic is going to be. I'm thinking maybe diving into the underworld and the shadow, but I'm actually recording this a little bit early because I am headed to sit with the Yawanawa for a week in Guatemala. So who knows, after I emerge from this experience, what I'll feel called to share. So I'm looking forward to being back, to seeing you guys next time. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If you want to book a session, if you feel called to a psychic surgery, you can do all of that through my website. Any first timers, there is an 11% off code that I share on the website as well. And on Instagram, you can find me at Lauren on Earth, laureноnearth.com. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye.